everyone. Welcome to Fearless Truth with Joey's Angels. I am Therese Hernandez, and today we are here with Tammy. She lost her sister to the deadly hospital protocol, and she is going to tell her story, her horrific story. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Hi, Tammy. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate all your efforts and everything that you're doing.
Thank you. So tell us, how did it start? Your sister, when did she get sick?
Sure.
How did she wind up in the hospital?
Okay. On October the 2nd, we had gone on a trip together for her church. They had a discipleship walk, and she invited me, and I went down there, and we attended it together along with a bunch of other ladies. She got to feeling sick a couple, like 2 days after we got there. So she left and went home a day early. So I believe that was on like the October the 3rd, but she went into the hospital October the 6th.
So that was in 2021, correct?
I'm sorry. Yes, last year, a year ago.
Okay. And she was in Tennessee?
Yes, that was in Memphis. It was Olive Branch, Tennessee is where she lived, but Memphis is like right there across the river from Mississippi. So she got to feeling bad. She went home. She couldn't breathe very well. She was just feeling, a lot of flu symptoms ish. But at that time, COVID was pretty rampant, so they assumed that it might be. She did test positive for it. She stayed home for a couple days, but her breathing was such that it was labored. She had suffered from asthma off and on all her life. So she knew that, it was hard for her to breathe. And so when that happened, she just became fearful that it would get worse. And so she wanted to go in and hopefully just get like some breathing treatments and stuff. So she did go into the hospital, and she was admitted, like I said, on the 6th. They did give her some breathing treatments. She was able to text and sent me a couple things. She sent me a few pictures where she just had the small one that was around her face that was helping her breathe. And at that time, she was getting some water and some like jello and fluids and stuff. They thought that she was doing a little bit better. And so on November the 16th, I have it written down. I'm sorry, November the 19th, she went into a rehab facility. Well, what happened there, everything went really, really downhill after that. I'm
sorry. While she was in the hospital, did she get remdesivir?
No, and I meant to say that. So that what happened while she was there, the first couple days that she was there, they found out she was unvaccinated. They asked her then if she would take remdesivir, and she said no, she did not want to take that. She had heard all the stuff that was not good for her to take it. She knew at least that. And the doctor said, well, then I guess you just want to die. That's what he told her. Wow. She texted me and told me that's what he said to me. And I was floored. I couldn't believe that a medical professional would say that, to someone. Wow. So she was really upset about that. Her husband just felt like the doctors were doing everything they could. With us being so far away, we were 6 hours away. It was hard for me to get down there. But so she went into the rehab facility. Like I said, on the 19th, they said that because of the transfer, that she had like taken significant step back. That's what they had said. So she was on a high flow oxygen. And then when she wasn't on the one that she could hold up to her face, they strapped that one to her face. She ended up being tied down. They strapped her arms down because they didn't want her to take it off. Well, what was happening was she was so uncomfortable. It was so forceful that it was hurting her. And she told my mom, and I went up the weekend of Thanksgiving, went up to see her. And at that time she was still alert enough. She was talking. She would be able to take it off when they said she could, which was not for long periods of time, even though it was so sad to see, because she would look at us and she'd be like, look at my numbers are fine. They won't let me take off my mask. And she's like, go get them. Please go get someone to let me take this off. Well, and so we took out her arms because we wanted to hold her hands, but we knew they'd put them back once that we left. We were very loud and boisterous with the nurses. Like, we were asking questions. We were like, why is she not getting any water? They would not let her have ice chips.
And this was in the rehab facility?
Yes, okay. This was at Regional 1 in Memphis, Tennessee. She kept telling me over and over again, please watch them, please watch them. I feel like they're making up stuff, they're not putting in the right information. And she was really directing that towards her physical, the oh, I had it written down, his the respiratory therapist,
Okay.
and she kept saying, please watch him. I don't trust him. Please watch him. And so I was like watching him like a hawk. I was going behind him and when he was putting stuff on the computer, even though I didn't know what he was, what everything meant. I
Yeah.
felt like she wanted me to watch him. So that's what I was doing. And we were there for 3 days with her. And we just felt like we knew that something was wrong. She was being very left alone. She was not attended to. Her hair was unwashed. Her skin was so dry. We brought up lotion. We tried to do everything we could to help her. We got some dry shampoo and was trying to help her with that. Like I said, we talked to the nurses and they told us that if we kept interfering or asking about where the therapist was, that because we were being so causing a commotion, that they were
Mm-hmm.
going to tell us to leave and that we would not be allowed to come back. And my sister was just, she would cry and she couldn't cry because the airflow was so hard. It sounded like she was literally trying to talk when, like, if someone would take a shop vac and just like put it in your face on full force, and her trying to talk through that was sad to see. It was just sad to have to witness that for her. At one point when they came in and said she could take it off for a little bit, as long as then she had the handheld one where she could put it back up to her face when her numbers started to drop a little bit, which like by a couple points, they wanted her to put the other one back on that she could just like hold. But during that time, one of those times, she asked me to come and look at her tongue. She wanted me to scrape it off. And I didn't understand what she meant because I didn't understand, like, well, was it tasting, funny in her mouth? So when I went over and looked at it, it was hard. I had to compose myself because I would have just lost it. Her tongue was swollen and white. It was completely white. And later I found out that's thrush, but it was so bad that I told her, I said, San, I can't do that. I don't want to hurt you. I didn't know what to do. Her teeth that had once been, she had braces on them. They were all white. She always took care of them. They were brown, like little patches of tobacco were like on her gums. I mean, they were so brown. I didn't even want to tell her that.
That's horrifying.
Yeah, I didn't want to tell her that that's what her teeth look like. I knew she couldn't look in a mirror, It was just hard to see her so mistreated. Sorry.
And she was so young. She had just turned 50, right?
Yeah, she had just turned 50, like 2 weeks before she went into the hospital. So to feel like she was so neglected and to see her be tied down like an animal, because they just didn't want her to take that oxygen that was harming her. They didn't want it to take it off her face. I knew later that it was harming her. She ended up having to get 3 chest tubes put in. And now I wonder, because they were saying, well, her lung is partially collapsed at the top. And so they wanted to put these chest tubes in. But later I kept thinking, isn't that because I did do research on that later and found out that it was for in between your lung and your chest cavity is an area where when they put the chest tube in, it's supposed to drain excess fluids or air. Well, that usually only happens because of like surgeries you've had, and she hadn't had any surgeries. She was actually doing better, but my belief is that because she was doing better, they had to find ways to make her not better.
Yeah, of course. Now let me ask you one question.
Yeah, sure.
Do you think that they possibly in the hospital gave her remdesivir? I know you don't have the records to see it, but do you possibly think they could have, and maybe, because they sneak those meds in at night and,
Yes.
you don't even know what they're giving you in your IV.
I've heard about that. And I talked to someone yesterday at the Truth Summit that they had here in Kentucky. It wasn't yesterday. I'm sorry. It was Saturday. I attended it in LaGrange. And I talked to someone about getting her medical records, and I found out some information. So I'm going to try to do that. And that is very possible. From what I saw there, it's very, very possible. Like I said, her skin was so dry. It was just, I was just shocked. Honestly, I always felt like, as we've been told over our whole lives, doctors are good. You should trust them. And that's just not true. If you don't advocate for yourself, we should never trust anyone blindly. And that's unfortunately what her husband was doing. And she just felt like she was being completely neglected. And she was.
That's sad. And she had children?
Yes, she had a 9-year-old, and they only let her up one time to go visit her mother. So, she had to die alone. She had to suffer from not getting the affection and love from her child that could have, doesn't that make everyone feel better? She was
Absolutely.
she was
Absolutely.
completely alone in her thoughts and misery. And the protocols really did. They killed her. I have no doubt. My mom and I
That
both
was their
agree.
goal. That was their
Yeah.
goal, unfortunately.
hmm Yeah, she was chosen. Once they found out she was unvaccinated and denied the remdesivir, she was chosen at that point to be part of their cash cow. I have no doubt about that. She even asked specifically for ivermectin, and they said no, they didn't prescribe that. They would not give it to her.
Of
So,
course, because it works.
yeah. And had I known some of the stuff that I had found out now, like I had heard about one of another lady that her husband had been in the ICU, and they would not give it to him, and she got the cream and went and rubbed it on him, on his body. She rubbed it on his body, and 10 months later he got out of the ICU. That's a long time, but I thought, wow, someone that was willing to go to any length, to do something to rub that on someone's body is just to find a
Yes.
place to keep doing it all day. I thought, things that I wish I would have known, or not that it even might have worked, but it's something to try, anything to do that I could have helped her. And so now that's why I'm doing this, because I can't, change the past, but I do want to let people know
Exactly.
what's happening.
Exactly why I started doing this, because I just, if I could just get it to help save someone, just get the word out.
Yes.
People need to start listening.
Yes.
Most people are, if it didn't happen to them, they're like, whatever, that's not true.
Right.
That couldn't happen.
Well, they don't believe it's happening. They're just like, why would you say that the doctors weren't doing what they could? Well, there was a lot of incentive for them to do that,
And not only that, they were all these just, hospitalists, these doctors from foreign countries that came over during COVID. Some of them didn't even have licenses to practice in the United States. There are so many things that I've heard about these doctors. It's incredible. It's heartbreaking, incredible. It's inhumane.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
It needs to stop. And if we can help put a stop to it, then we've done our job.
Oh, absolutely. No, I believe it was a culling. I believe they picked people to let this happen to absolutely kill them with the protocols, the vent, and they were really pushed to have her her family sign off on a DNR, because they told them, well, it's going to cause her more pain. If we have to try to resuscitate her, we might break her ribs. She might be in more pain. And so because they were so worried about that, they were like, well, if you think that it's best, then I guess we should. And so, it was just, they didn't know any different, which most people don't.
Of course.
And so they put her on a vent, but it was the same way I'd heard other things happen. They call at 5 a.m. and say, hey, if we don't put her on this vent right now, if you don't give us emergency permission to do this, then she's just going to die. And so, her husband was like, well, yeah, I want her to have a chance. Yes, I give permission. Well, it's just
exactly what I did with my dad. So I know exactly. That's what happens. You get scared into it. You're like, of course, just save their life. Just, do what you need to do.
Yeah. It was just one thing after another. Yeah, that's true. It's but for her to be so terrified in there, for her to hear her say, I don't trust him. Something's going on. I don't feel right about it. I don't trust them at all.
She knew.
Yeah. And it was heartbreaking to not be able to do anything, or know that I knew at the time. I've heard now that there's numbers you can call, a hospital rescue thing or something that they can do. Well, my gosh, if I'd have known about that then, I would have taken it upon myself to do.
Yeah, we have one on the website. Greta has a protocol on protocolkills.com. Laura Bartlett, she's amazing. It's a 1-800 number hotline, 24/7. She will help, people get out of the hospital, help them escape.
Yeah. That's
It's
exactly
sad
what.
that we have to have things like that now, but unfortunately we do.
Yeah. It was just devastating to have to watch her go through that and to not be able to, to see her. I went up again when she got on the vent. I went up there and, what I did not know was that you could request to not be quite as heavily medicated. And I did not know that. They had her so medicated that she was in a coma, basically. I mean, it was just she was completely unaware of anything. She was so heavily sedated. She was really not there anymore. I mean, and while she was there, when we were there, like I said, in Thanksgiving, she was so neglected. She was sedated so much then that they didn't even have the TV on. She was just, she couldn't even, there was no engaging with her. And I thought that if people were there to engage with her, at least she would be alert and know stuff. But I realized later that they didn't want her alert. The whole point was to keep her
Of
to where she
course.
didn't know what was going on at all. And it just got worse over time. So, like I said, things I wish I knew,
I
then.
know. I know. It's awful. And all we can do is pray.
Mhm.
Pray and spread truth and just keep talking.
Yes.
That's all we can do at this point.
I
But
agree.
Tammy, I thank you so much for sharing your sister's story.
You're absolutely
I
welcome.
know how hard it is to do that. And
Mhm.
speaking out is very courageous. So just keep doing what you're doing.
I
And
appreciate it.
I will continue to pray for you and your family.
Thank you. I really appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you being here. God bless you all. And
Thank
I
you,
just
hon.
want to say thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Fearless Truth with Joey's Angels. And I just want to say one thing. If you feel that your loved one or someone you know died from COVID, please get those medical records. Please look into it, because chances are they were murdered by the protocol. It was not COVID.
Mhm.
God bless everyone. Thank you.